We begin the day with major breaking news pertaining to ICE. As we've discussed in recent videos, there have been at least 2 fatal shootings by ICE agents in about a week. And as a consequence, the political pressure and protests were mounting, such that the new Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen ordered a moratorium on ICE traffic stops, only for Donald Trump to publicly override him and say, well, despite what's happened recently with ICE, despite the fatal shootings, despite the probable murders committed by ICE, we're going to go back to the way things were before. We are not going to change tactics whatsoever. And in so doing, not only is Trump further endangering the lives of not just immigrants in this country, undocumented or otherwise, but also American citizens. And he's creating a political nightmare for incumbent Republicans heading into these midterms, particularly Republican Senator Susan Collins of Maine. This just goes to show how incompetent and cruel and indifferent Donald Trump truly is as president of the United States. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. As Mediaite reports, Trump demands ICE restart traffic stops despite 2 fatal shootings in a week. Quote, "It won't happen on my watch." Donald Trump demanded that Immigration and Customs Enforcement resume traffic stops a day after the agency mostly paused the practice. Trump's demand, issued via a Wednesday morning Truth Social post, comes after ICE was involved in 2 fatal traffic stops within a week. So this is what Trump said on Truth Social. He says, "The men and women of ICE are doing a great job, one that has to be done. Crime is way down in America, and in many cases with numbers that haven't been seen in decades. The open border policy of Sleepy Joe Biden allowed 25 million people to pour into our country. That's not true. He's orders of magnitude off. There's no evidence to support that claim. He's just lying. Unchecked and unvetted. Many were criminals, and we have to get them out. In order to do this, we must have strong, tough, and smart, and we cannot give up one of ICE's most important and effective crime-fighting tools, the traffic stop. Once we do, we're playing right into the criminals' hands. The radical left Democrats would like to see this done, but it won't happen on my watch. ICE, be judicious, fair, and smart, and go back and do your very important job. Keep those crime stat records coming. Remember, you are loved and respected in America. Thank you for your attention to this matter." Now, setting aside the fact that Donald Trump mostly inherited a declining crime rate from President Biden, crime actually spiked. It went up under Donald Trump's first term in office during 2020 and then declined steadily over the 4 years of the Biden administration. So Trump did not create this trend. He is actually responsible for the crime rate spiking, and then he inherited a downward trend from Biden. Set all that aside. What Donald Trump is showing here is he doesn't give a damn about immigrant lives, American lives, nobody's lives. He does not care. He thinks that this could somehow be a political winner for him. The polling on this, it tells a different story. Immigration and ICE used to be some of Trump's strongest policy areas. Now he's underwater on those because of the murders that we've seen, the murder of Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy, the litany of civil rights and human rights and civil liberties violations from ICE over the past year and a half. It's been staggering, and the American people are not happy with this. So in addition to being a massive political miscalculation, it just goes to show that Trump really doesn't care. Again, NBC News reporting on this. Trump says ICE should continue traffic stops after recent fatal shootings, seeming to contradict a new policy to halt them. The policy change came a week after an ICE officer shot and killed a Colombian driver Monday in Maine, and a week after one shot and killed a motorist in Houston, renewing criticism of the agency's enforcement tactics that were widely condemned last winter after the killings of Alex Preddy and Renee Good in Minnesota. In Florida on Tuesday, a third man in roughly a week died during an encounter with immigration officers. This time, a 28-year-old man was killed after he was hit by a tractor-trailer while running from immigration and other federal officers, authorities said. It's a narrative that's been repeated again and again since the Trump administration's immigration crackdown began, with federal officers confronting drivers, then saying they opened fire when their vehicles became a danger. That's despite decades of warnings from policing experts that shooting into moving cars presents a danger of its own and should almost always be avoided. At least 10 people have been killed during the immigration operation since the start of the Trump administration's mass deportation program. At least 4 of those deaths involved people in vehicles, including one last week in Houston, a trend so troubling U.S. Senator Collins said Tuesday she urged DHS Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen, quote, to cease all non-urgent vehicle stops. John Sandweg, who was acting director at ICE, which is part of DHS during the Obama administration, estimated recently that there have been roughly 18 traffic stop shootings during the Trump administration crackdown. Since we're talking about Susan Collins, the incumbent Republican senator from Maine, who is facing a re-election effort. Graham Plattner, of course, dropped out, so we don't yet know who the Democratic challenger will be. But folks, if we want to flip the United States Senate, which we desperately need to do if we want to meaningfully check this administration, Susan Collins has to go. Susan Collins cannot be the Republican senator or the senator for Maine in November if we want to meaningfully check the Trump administration. A Democrat has to win. We have to flip Maine. She has actively enabled all of the excesses of the Trump administration. She voted to confirm Kristi Noem as the Department of Homeland Security Secretary when Trump came into office. And because of Kristi Noem and others, that's what led to the death of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, as well as the corrupt, lawless, authoritarian attempted cover-up afterwards, the lies about Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Susan Collins has blood on her hands. She is at least partially responsible for that because she could have used her power to check Trump, and instead she rubber-stamped him. So this is what she said, okay, in the aftermath of the shooting in Maine. She goes, I spoke with DHS Secretary Mullen last night and urged him to cease all non-urgent vehicle stops in the wake of yesterday's deadly Biddeford shooting. I'm encouraged that the department has agreed to do so. This is before Trump just totally torpedoed her. An impartial investigation into the shooting in Biddeford needs to proceed, as the details surrounding this tragedy are important. It's extremely unfortunate that the agent involved did not have a body-worn camera. Again, this is the best we get from her. It's unfortunate. I'm concerned. No, lady, you have power. You need to use your power to crush this administration. You need to be using stronger language, and you need to be using your leverage to actually extract concessions from this administration. Now, I'm concerned. Now, this is troubling. She needs to go to Trump, the Trump administration, and say, listen, you will do what you're told. I'm not negotiating with you. I am telling you what to do. You're my bitch. That's what she needs to tell them. And she needs to tell them, if you don't do what you're told, if you don't follow the law, I will use my votes and my power and I will side with the Democrats. You will do what you're told. That's the attitude and swagger she needs to have if she's truly an independent. But she's not. She's a Trump rubber stamp. So this is the best we're going to do. This is the best we're going to get. While it's clear that ICE needs to improve its performance, it's important to remember the work that ICE does to protect our country goes far beyond immigration enforcement. We don't need ICE. We need immigration enforcement. That is true, but we have other agencies to do that. Law enforcement, we have multitudes of agencies. Nobody's saying open borders. Nobody's saying no immigration enforcement. We're saying this particular agency is corrupted. The American people don't believe in it. The American people support abolishing ICE more than they support defending ICE. In 16 months, that's what Donald Trump has done to ICE's reputation. And it's happened on your watch too, Senator Collins. You have made this happen. You have enabled this, which means you're to blame, which means you should suffer the political consequences. They should vote your old ass out. There's no room for you in the United States Senate. You should be punished for your cowardice and fecklessness. By the way, I want you to know, no statement as of yet from Senator Collins. Let's see if I can pull it up here. I'll refresh the page. No statement as of yet following Donald Trump's torpedoing of her good conversation with Mark Wayne Mullen. 2,000 responses compared to 500,000 or 500 likes. She's getting just totally savaged in the comment section, as well she should. Sahil Kapoor of NBC News says Monday, fatal shooting by ICE officer in Maine. Tuesday, Collins asked Mullen to cease non-urgent vehicle stops. DHS agrees. Wednesday, Trump says ICE ceasing traffic stops equals, quote, playing into the criminals' hands and wants them reinstated. Tim Miller of The Bulwark says yesterday Susan Collins announced she'd talked to Mullen and was, quote, encouraged that ICE was ceasing vehicle stops after the agents she funded murdered a Maine resident. That's the other thing, too. She's funded ICE every step of the way without any meaningful oversight, just giving them a blank check. So fuck her. Today, Trump says the stops are back on. Assume she will be concerned and do nothing. We'll monitor. Also, Sam Stein of The Bulwark says, after a deluge of MAGA online backlash, Trump says ICE vehicle stops are back on. The pause, prompted by 2 shootings in a week, was about 20 hours or so. So, folks, this is where we are. I cannot stress enough that Donald Trump does not give a shit about protecting the lives and safety of immigrants, documented or otherwise, or American citizens. That's a sacrifice he is willing to make in order to get his crime numbers, his crime stats, because he thinks that will benefit him in the upcoming midterms. Again, ICE is just a deadweight issue for him politically. It's to his detriment. So you would think, even if he doesn't care about Americans or the lives and safety of others, that he would at least care about the politics. He doesn't seem to. Or if he does, he's making a gross miscalculation and he is responding solely to right-wing backlash. We'll probably talk about that in a separate video. Susan Collins and other Republicans who are up for re-election who have done nothing meaningful to check and curb and to provide oversight against this administration, they should all be punished. They should all be replaced with Democrats in November. Susan Collins has to go, and Susan Collins should be relentlessly but peacefully protested to make the American people's displeasure known. She needs to lose in November. And then a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate need to use all the tools at their disposal to exact meaningful oversight against the Trump administration and ICE. And then in 2028, not only should we elect a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate, but a Democratic president who can immediately, effectively eliminate ICE once they get back into power. That doesn't mean eliminate border patrol or border enforcement or immigration enforcement. Those concepts, those areas of jurisdiction are important and need to be maintained. But ICE, the agency, which has only been around for like 23 years, it needs to go. It needs to be deleted and moved on. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.